Hey everybody, Ollie here for the weekly news recap of the 4th to the 10th of December 2023 Game Awards edition. This is going to take a while. All right, anyway, let's get into it. So, speaking of the Game Awards, we got a lot of announcements to go through, as you can see all the way up here at the top. There's a lot of tabs. Anyway, Monster Hunter Wilds announced for PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC, due out in 2025. It's going to be a while. There's a long wait ahead, so I'm not gonna actually bother with the trailer because it is very short. This was kind of the one more thing wrap up for the Game Awards. It looks like it's Monster Hunter World 2, effectively. Monster Hunter Wilds seems like mounts and gliding and stuff might be a bigger deal in Monster Hunter Wilds, but it's still so far off that we really don't know what's going to be involved in it, and I still have to finish Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise, so it's going to take me a minute. Anyway, that's one of them. One of the many announcements from the Game Awards. Not even that many awards, but a lot of announcements. Final Fantasy 16 DLC, Echoes of the Fallen, and The Rising Tide have been announced. So Echoes of the Fallen is already out. Play it right now if you want to. This is continuing the story, or not continuing it, but sort of adding additional story into the game. When they were developing the game, they hadn't actually planned on DLC, so this is kind of something that has been like a community request demand. It's probably more accurate to say. We want more of Final Fantasy 16, so that's what they did. I'm not going to click into it because I don't want to be spoiled. But Echoes of the Fallen is a sort of, I think it's more like a really hard dungeon kind of thing. And The Rising Tide is going to take you to the mainland, which we didn't really get to go to in the main game. I am currently playing through the Final Fantasy series, so when we finally get back to Final Fantasy 16, we will have the DLC available and play through the whole thing. On. Hello Games announces Light No Fire, so I will play this trailer. So, Hello Games, if you may be or may not be familiar with, Hello Games are the No Man's Sky people, Sean Murray, on stage to announce it. Why isn't this playing? Come on, YouTube, help me out here. Really doesn't want to play the ball here. Can you full screen yourself, please? No, don't want to. Anyway, I'm just gonna leave that. Yeah, so came on stage, and obviously last time when he announced his new game, it was No Man's Sky, and they famously overpromised very much. It was very much a Peter Molyneux moment where they promised a lot more than they were able to deliver. And now, I mean, No Man's Sky now is certainly living up to that promise, but that's like 10 years later. And you would think he would learn his lesson, but no, he's once again promised something ridiculous. It's like an entire planet MMO. Everybody plays all on the planet at once, which is not going to happen. It's too many people. It will not be able to support that, but okay. I am seeing a lot of No Man's Sky's code here, the mounts and that kind of thing. Floating planets and what have you. I don't think there's a release date for this yet. It's still quite a ways off. But like, yeah, it looks interesting and it looks really good, but also No Man's Sky combat is not very good. So how well this will actually play, and we're not seeing any of the combat stuff. So everybody has a weapon, so there's obviously going to be combat, but you're not seeing any of it. And how it's going to handle griefing and trolls and whatever if literally everybody is playing on the same server all at once, which is definitely not going to happen, but okay. Anyway, that's Light No Fire. I don't think it has like a release date or anything. It's just, yeah, it's soon at some point. I don't know why YouTube is being weird. Anyway, moving on. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 has a new launch date. Again, this trailer is quite short, so I'm not going to bother with it. It had been pushed out of this year, and we weren't sure when. All we knew was second half of next year. But now it has an actual release date, which is early September. That's still ages away. That could still change. Hopefully it actually comes out and isn't delayed again. Zenless Zone Zero launches in 2024. That's a ridiculous name, but of course it's a ridiculous name because it's from the Hoyoverse Genshin Impact people who also have ridiculous names for all of their games. Are you gonna full screen this time? Okay, this time you wanted the full screen. Cool. Okay, so Zenless Zone Zero is another Genshin Impact Honkai Star Rail kind of gacha thing. The difference this time is Zenless Zone Zero is set in a cyberpunky kind of futuristic kind of world. Hey Melvin, how you getting on? And it's also a kind of real-time action game. So that's it. That's its unique selling point, as opposed to Genshin Impact, which was more of an action adventure, almost a Zelda type thing, and Honkai Star Rail is a turn-based combat thing, like an old school JRPG. I am again interested in these because I like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, even if it is gacha loot box stuff that is disgusting. But they make interesting characters, so I kind of like it. Anyway, that is out some stage next year, and we'll see it then. I don't think it gave a specific date. It was just next year at some point. And we'll see more of that. Did it give a specific date? No, just 2024. Okay, kind of a shock midway announcement in the show was that Blade going to be made by Arcane Leon, people behind Dishonored and Deathloop. It's not clear yet if this is going to be a Xbox exclusive. It probably will be, but it's not clear yet. Microsoft haven't come out to sort of claim it and be like, yeah, get it day one, Game Pass and all that shit. It's possible Marvel were like, no, you're not putting it on Game Pass or something like that, or they wanted too much money to have it be put on Game Pass, or maybe they wanted it to reach more people and they're insisting it's available on PlayStation and Switch. I doubt it's going to be on Switch, but we don't know, is the point. There's no gameplay here. This is all just a CG thing. Vampires have invaded Paris. Blade is on site, I guess, to take care of things. You don't know it's actually Blade yet. It's not until way later. Find out that it is. €20. €20 for a haircut. Yeah, again, I don't think we know when this is coming out. Now it's just now in development. You can see even on this plate, it's just Marvel's Blade and then Arcane and Bethesda. Like, there's no mention of Xbox or anything like that. So that might still be up in the air. Possible they just haven't ironed that out yet, or they're still in negotiations about whether it's going to be on Game Pass or that kind of thing. We'll find out. Still quite a ways off. Come on, Chrome. Chrome is struggling with all these tabs. It's quite clear. Okay, I can read it from the URL. The next one is the first Berserker Kazan. This is a action adventure combat slasher-y type game that is set in the DNF universe, or the Dungeon and Fighter universe. Wow, you just don't want to load. Of course you loaded as soon as I pressed the reload button. Anyway, Kazan, the first Berserker, has a bit of a Conan vibe to it, by way of anime, essentially. A little taste of it here if YouTube decides to play ball. So the DNF universe, the Dungeon and Fighter universe, was kind of an old, almost Golden Axe type game, and then was sort of reimagined as a fighting game. Came out recently, DNF Duel, and now they're kind of starting to do spin-offs of the different characters. So this is Kazan's spin-off, if you like, where he gets his own game. Very much thought this was just Berserk when I saw it before I noticed it was the DNF stuff. But yeah, if you remember kind of the old school, the older God of War games, not the newer ones, it's kind of going for that kind of vibe. Only it's got the pulled back character in the center screen, which is a bit more Soulsy. I don't think it's going to be a Souls type game. So looking at it now, maybe it will be. Maybe. Might be. Anyway, no release date for that, I don't think. I think that's another 2024, 2025 maybe at some point. Yeah, nothing. and also not coming to the Switch. Fuck you, Switch. Get nothing. Don't Nod announces Lost Records, Bloom, and Rage for PS5, Xbox, and again the Switch gets nothing. So this is Don't Nod, the people behind Life is Strange, people behind Vampire, other things that don't come to my head right now. This kind of started off looking like another Life is Strange type thing, but it does later on in the trailer. You do get this kind of Stranger Things, Oxenfree kind of vibe to it, where they seem to encounter a kind of otherworldly, supernatural thing. Get to this, maybe? That? And then there's like a time jump, and it's like 10 years later kind of thing. So there's got a bit of it to it as well. There's like they encounter something scary, supernatural, and then 10 years later it's still haunting them, sort of thing. Late 2024, so probably like September-ish type. Electronic Arts Insurgent Studios announces Tales of Kanzera Zao. God, I'm not going to be able to pronounce these properly. For PS5, Xbox. Oh, Switch actually finally gets something. So, Tales of Kanzera is a side-scrolling, jumpy Metroidvania type thing. So you know, I had to show it to you. I'm again contractually obligated to look at these games. Some gameplay. So yeah, it's side-scrolling platform craziness. It looks like it's very fast-paced, very precision platforming. So Hollow Knight kind of thing. Maybe a bit more fast-paced than that. Liking the look of it. I like how quick and speedy it is. Whether I like that after playing it, I don't know. But I'm liking what I'm seeing right now, at least. That I think is just next year again. A lot of these are. Oh no, it has an actual release date, April 23rd, 2024. We're going through these kind of fast, I know. Black Myth Wukong launches August 2024. So this is a Soulsy type, or Bloodborne, a Soulsborne, whatever way you want to put it, Mazocore type game, based on the Journey to the West novel. You play the Monkey King, making your way west, presumably, to fulfill your nebulous destiny. I don't know, you have a destiny out west, but you don't know what it is. That was kind of the gist of it. It looks very pretty. So don't expect this on the Switch, I guess. We'll get into some gameplay. There's some really interesting enemy monster designs here as well. Gross. Some gross monster designs too. You'll see once we finally get into combat somewhere. Come on. Okay, yes. So, Souls Eat stuff, as you can see. Pulled back, characters fully in the screen. Enemy attacks are delayed and predictable. There was a lot more gameplay in the trailer. I don't know, I must have skipped over a lot of it. Anyway, very pretty game. And probably going to be a hard as nails as well. Single-player action-adventure game Jurassic Park Survival announced for everything except the Switch. Can you tell the Switch is a previous generation game yet? Switch 2, hopefully soon, because a lot of these games are going to bypass it by the looks of things. So Jurassic Park Survival is set the day after the film. So everyone in the film has been rescued, but I guess this person was left behind. Company hasn't come to the island yet to clean things up like it does before Jurassic Park 2. So the dinosaurs are still very much out and about, free reign, so on. And you have to survive, I guess. It's a first-person kind of Mirror's Edge, almost, but Jurassic Park. I'm going to skip because this is all CG, and it's just scenes from the film. There's like a very tiny snippet of gameplay right at the end. Okay, it's there somewhere. Anyway, T-Rex. The last films or the old films? So the very, very first film. It's still called Jurassic Park. It's not Jurassic World yet. Okay, I'm actually kind of curious if it's going to be a VR supported thing as well, because there's some stuff there that looks kind of VR, but I doubt it because Xbox. Anyway, there's that. No, just no release date at all. Just yeah, I don't know. It's coming out at some point. There isn't even an Saber Interactive, so there is. I was like, I was gonna say there isn't even a developer attached to it, but no, there is. Saber Interactive. I don't think there was a release date for it. No, just coming out at some point. Look forward to it, I guess. So Hideo Kojima came on stage because, of course, Jeff Keighley, famously, Jeff likes to pretend he's Kojima's best friend. I don't think Kojima even knows who he is, but okay. He was on board with Jordan Peele, director of Get Out, Us, Nope, those kind of new wave horror films. And they are collaborating together to make a game called OD, previously known as just Overdose. I'm not sure if it's still called Overdose because Kojima likes to play around with names. There is a trailer, but I'm not going to bother with it because it's not really a trailer. It's just showing off the actors and their really impressive scanning technology. That they get the face really good. We've no idea what the game is about, and also no idea when it's coming out. There's apparently other people on board to talk about it as well, but who knows? I assume Death Stranding 2 will be first before whatever OD is. Rise of the Ronin launches March 22nd, 2024. So this is kind of Sony's, PlayStation's, if you like, next thing. Probably their next big game that they'll start pushing. But it's not a first-party game. This is a second-party game. If you're familiar with it. So first-party game would mean Sony made it. Third-party game would mean they're not associated with Sony at all. They just launched their game on the platform. So EA, Ubisoft, that kind of thing. Any kind of indie game, they're all third party. A second party game is when Sony pays another developer that's not associated with Sony to make a game for them. Which is what they did here. Okay? So it's not actually a first party game. All of their studios are still working on live service garbage. Anyway, so this is Team Ninja's Rise of the Ronin. You could possibly even look at it as just Neo 3. I suspect that they might be taking some more design decisions from stuff like Stranger of Paradise, which is what they made just before this one, as well as Long, Fallen Dynasty. So they might be going for more of an action-y thing and a little bit more accessible, i.e. not as hard as Neo. Debatable, like that's very much Neo. That animation all by itself, I've seen it many times. Playing Neo and Neo 2. I just got powerbombed. Amazing. We don't know. It might still be hard as nails Neo and Neo 2 was. Stranger of Paradise was the same engine and same animation suite and a lot of other things. There was a lot of Neo's code in Stranger of Paradise, but it was much easier. Probably because Square Enix were like, we can't make this so hard for people who play Final Fantasy. Come on. They're used to turn-based, really slow shit. We can't throw them straight into a Bloodborne thing. No release date. Oh no, sorry, there is a release date. It's March 22nd, same as a lot of other games. So that's going to be an issue. Dragon's Dogma 2 also comes out in March, and Superstar Peach, the Nintendo game, also comes out the same day. So that's a busy day. That's a busy day for me. There's 3 games I really want to play. Visions of Mana announced for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series, and PC. I'm surprised this got slided for the Switch because I think it should run perfectly fine. Anyway, this was the only game I think Square Enix had to show off other than the Final Fantasy 16 DLC. Visions of Mana is another entry in the Mana series, Secrets of Mana, Tales of Mana, that kind of stuff. I don't remember when the last one was made because it's been a good while now. There was a Secrets of Mana remake / remaster. Maybe this year, maybe last year. I don't know. Time is a construct. Anyway, this is very different. The Mana games were like pixel Super Nintendo type stuff. I don't think it made the jump into PS1, 32-bit era. Gameplay looks like it is Breath of the Wild type stuff. Very pulled out, very platforming based. Maybe Breath of the Wild might be the best example. It's looking good. It's looking really good. I haven't played any of the Mana series. It's sort of been a Square Enix series that passed me by. I do know that the Mana's series is a bit more cozy. It's not as grim as a lot of some of the other RPGs are. It's a bit more of a nice, cozy time. The adventure begins in 2024, so we don't have a release date. Okay, we're about halfway through the Game Awards stuff. We're almost there. Supermassive Games and the Dead by Daylight guys are teaming up to make a Supermassive style game. So Supermassive are the people behind the Dark Pictures games, Until Dawn, that kind of thing. So this is set in the Dead by Daylight universe. The casting of Frank Stone, I don't know who that is. I don't play Dead by Daylight. I don't follow Dead by Daylight. I only notice it when they add like some ridiculous horror character to the game. Or that time they added Nemesis, and I briefly thought about playing it. This is just a pure CG thing. I don't think there's any actual gameplay. I don't know who Frank Stone is, so this doesn't make any sense to me. I assume he's a serial killer of some kind, because that's Dead by Daylight's whole deal. But that's it. I don't think there's a release date. It's probably next year at some point. Yeah, next year at some point. This might explain why there was no Dark Pictures game this year, because I think they've been working on a couple of other things, and it really feels like Supermassive are starting to turn into the next Telltale. So Telltale went bankrupt mostly because they stretched themselves way too thin. Were making way too many games for too many publishers, and just couldn't afford to do it anymore. And it does feel like Supermassive are pushing themselves like that. So hopefully that's not the case. Okay, this was actually something that launched the Game Awards show. Sega just went, hey, remember all... Somebody must have went back into their back catalog and went, well, why haven't we made any games from these series in ages? So they decided to just announce like 5 games all in one go. And they're all from established IPs. So it's like a new Jet Set Radio, a new Shinobi, a new Streets of Rage, a new Crazy Taxi. You know, all of these games are like, why aren't you making these games anymore? And it's a bit like, one, it's great that, you know, they're getting new entries in all of these series, but also it's a bit concerning that they've only thought to do this now and not like 10 years ago or something, you know, when arcade games were making a big return. Wait for it to jump into its gameplay, but it's like, there's Jet Set Radio. It looks really good. There's probably Streets of Rage. I'm not sure how I feel about a fully 3D Streets of Rage. There's Shinobi, holy shit, that looks amazing. Golden Axe. Fully 3D Golden Axe is obvious. This is a no-brainer. It might be a bit too simplistic. Crazy Taxi. I'm not sure how Crazy Taxi will play, honestly. Like, in this new era of video games, it is a very one-note kind of game. So they have those 5 games, and then there's like... They haven't mentioned it, but there are other games in development as well. I think Comixology is getting another return. Anyway, we don't know. They're all just in development. Who knows when they're coming out. Private Division and Moon Studios announced action RPG No Rest for the Wicked for once again everything except the Switch. This one must have been an 18s or something. Yes, okay. I don't know why YouTube never remembers how old I am. But anyway, so this is from the same people who made the Ori games. Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Ori in the Forest, that kind of thing. This is a very different game. This is like a full action-adventure RPG type thing, set in a very grim-looking universe. I don't think this trailer had any gameplay in it. I think it was all sort of just scene setting. Looks very nice though. Like this shot all by itself looks very good. Just kind of quickly just page through the trailer. You can see gameplay wise this isometric kind of thing. Lots of cinematic cutscenes and cutaways. Don't really know how necessarily the game is going to play. Is it going to play like a Diablo type thing? Is it going to be a dungeon crawler type thing? Is it going to be none of those? Is it going to be something else entirely? I think again it's just next year at some point. That's just highlighting like a dev log thing that they're going to have on the 1st of March. I don't think we have an actual even release date window for it. Kumi Nakamura from Unseen, previously from Tango Gameworks and Capcom and a lot of other places, launched her own studio a couple of years ago, and they're now ready to show off the first game that they've been working on. It's called Kimuri. Again, this is mostly CG. You can think of Kimuri as kind of what Ghostwire Tokyo was supposed to be. Um, she rather famously was working on Ghostwire Tokyo and then left the studio about a year before the game came out. It wasn't clear why necessarily she did leave, but the rumor was that Bethesda were wanting something that she didn't want to make, basically. Left, made her own studio. Now this is what she's working on now. So this is more of like a multiplayer Mirror's Edge parkour in Tokyo ninja thing with ridiculous monster design. That's excellent. Anyway, no gameplay, but yeah. From the stuff that she has worked on, Ghostwire Tokyo, The Evil Within, Okami, I think she was working on some of the Resident Evils as well. Like, no brainer. I will absolutely play this. No idea when it's coming out though. Senwa Saga, still looking very pretty. Still don't really know when it's coming out. Next year at some point. This was really more of a reminder that the game exists because we hadn't really seen anything from it for a good while. So this is Ninja Theory. Ninja Theory are now a Microsoft first-party studio, so this will be exclusive Xbox, and I believe it is going to be a day one Game Pass thing. Hopefully Ninja Theory are getting the money for something like that because this must cost a lot to make. Original Hellblade was a PS4 game, I think. Was it a PS3 game? Been so long, I'm not sure actually. It's a very closed-in single combat game, but it's also a heavily like narrative cinematic thing as well. It's been so long since the first game came out. Like, I have to almost feel like I have to remind people what the game is like. Obviously, the big draw is just the high fidelity of the game, high quality graphics and what have you. The combat was very much just in service to the story rather than the other way around, which is fine for a film, which is not really fine for a game. The game is all about the gameplay, so your mileage may vary on something like this. I liked the first game, but the combat was not a strong suit, in my opinion. Yeah, next year at some point. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown has a new trailer, and the demo's coming out in January. I won't go into this because there's nothing in the trailer we haven't seen before. The demo is nice, but the game comes out in like a couple of days after that, so it's a bit late to really be releasing a demo for it. But anyway, Panic and House announced co-op adventure game Big Walk for PC. So House you're probably familiar with. House are the Untitled Goose Game people. So this is their next game. It is kind of an interesting looking one. It's a lot of very high quality assets, very high photogrammetry type things, and then these kind of weird looking, not Play-Doh exactly, Duplo, that's the one, the kids Lego game, like Duplo looking characters, which is kind of funny. And I do like when they talk, their mouth kind of just gets bigger. It's like, I don't know, it's very strange. So Big Walk is just, we're going to set you in this kind of large nature reserve looking thing, and you just sort of hang out with people. But from Untitled Goose Game, it was just, you're a goose in the village, have fun. It was very strange and very fun to just mess around with people. So I assume there's going to be something similar to this. This very much does not take itself too seriously. But it does seem like it is mostly a co-op multiplayer type thing, so how much fun you'll actually have single player is debatable. Who knows? And I tell you to close, I mean close. Due out in 2025, so it's a good while off. It's going to be joining Monster Hunter Wilds all the way over there. Exodus, there's a very long and long-winded trailer attached to this. None of it shows any gameplay, so I'm not going to bother with it. But it is from former BioWare people and from creator James Oland's new studio. It is very much Mass Effect again. And I like Mass Effect, so I'm fine with it, but I don't know. Show me new things, please. Moving on. Metaphor ReFantasio launches in fall 2024, so this is what the Persona team have been working on. Long list. What I want. Oh. Weird. They just dumped all of the trailers here. So I'm not even sure which one is the Game Awards trailer. Pretend it's this one. So yeah, this is what the Persona team have been working on, the Shin Megami Tensei team. Metaphor is kind of going more in the heaven end of things, the angelic end of things, whereas Shin Megami Tensei would have been more demonic. Persona was more of a slice of life type of thing that also had supernatural elements to it, and Metaphor is more we're going up into the sky instead of down into the ground. But it still looks a bit like the newer Shin Megami Tensei 5. Still a turn-based type thing though, so it's still, it's not a real-time combat kind of thing. So it's still very much in their wheelhouse is what I'm going for, even if they're very much changing tact here. It's almost got a bit of an Attack on Titan vibe going for it as well. This will be a no-brainer for me when it comes out. I'm obviously going to be playing this. It's very much my bag. I don't think we have a release date for it though. Go away. I think we have a release date for it. Just fall 2024. Kepler Ghost and Motion Twin announced roguelike action game Windblown for PC. So this is the Dead Cells people, and they have a new game. It's another roguelike type thing. The trailer is all just animated. It's a very good trailer, but it doesn't show off any gameplay. And we don't really have a release date for it either. It's going to be an early access thing like Dead Cells was. Early access is next year, so the game itself is probably late 2025, maybe 2026 when it's fully done. Third-person action-adventure game, usual June, announced for PC. PC-only action-adventure for 2025. So this is sort of a mix of an action-adventure, dungeon crawler kind of thing, combined with a sort of detective game. This is from Finji. The last thing I remember Finji being associated with is Tunic, but I think they just published it. I don't think they were involved in its development, or maybe they helped in development. Let's skip into gameplay. So there's some kind of detective mystery thing that they're looking to solve. That seems to be one half of the gameplay, and then the other half is this sort of dungeon delving element to it. I do like that it has a kind of stop motion effect to it, at least in its cutscenes, not in its combat. It's probably preferable that it's not in the combat, for combat to be smooth. But it's like animations and its cutscenes and its cinematics all appear to be stop motion-y type. We'll see what that's like. Again, it's not out for a good while. I think it's 2025. What it was? Yes. So, good while off. Pony Island 2 Panda Circus announced for PC. The original Pony Island was 2016, so it's been a while. In between that, Daniel Mullins made Inscription. It's probably the game you probably know them better for. Pony Island 2 is similar kind of crazy nonsense going on. Appears to be a first-person game. You are striding across the landscape to find the big arcade machine that is haunted, I think. And you play the games. This is kind of like Pony Island. The first game was where you played the game Pony Island. In this case, you were playing the Panda Circus instead. But it's the same kind of thing. Game is mostly in service to the story. There's some crazy stuff going on. We have Pro ZD is in the game for some reason as himself. Yes, it's going to be a very strange thing. It's the exact same kind of weirdness that you've expected from Daniel Mullins. lots of that craziness to keep going. I don't think a release date was given for it. It's going to be a while off yet. That's they're on their way. He didn't just stop after the Rise of the Golden Idol. So earlier this year we played the Curse of the Golden Idol. Did a full let's play of it. It is a Return of the Obra Dinn style puzzle game. Rise of the Golden Idol is just a continuation of it. It doesn't appear to be the same game, just for different platforms. Appears to be a follow-up to it, which is interesting because it was PC only. Curse of the Golden Idol. I don't think you can play it on any other console. Whereas the Rise of the Golden Idol seems to be for pretty much everything. We don't know if it's going to be the same type of gameplay. I assume it will be because it's going to be a Netflix game as well. So I assume it will be the same kind of Return of the Obra Dinn, fill in the blanks, process of deduction, try to figure out what's going on in the game. No release date though. Curse of the Golden Idol though is a very good game, and I would suggest you play it. Due out in 2024. Anyway, that was it for the Game Awards. Although there was way more than that. There was so much more than that. I kind of just highlighted. Even with all of that, that was just a highlight. The stuff that I found interesting. But if you want to do, you can obviously check out the Game Awards yourself. It's like a 4-hour live stream. If you want to pick out even more things that you find interesting here. But other than that, earlier in the week, we had GTA 6 showed off its trailer. The trailer was in fact leaked ahead of time, and Rockstar decided to just put it out anyway, which is a bit shit for the people who worked on it. You know, obviously they were looking forward to a big announcement and what have you, but also you teased a teaser of a teaser. Rockstar, like, come on, stop taking the piss. Anyway, I actually haven't seen this trailer yet, so I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it with you guys. Now I'm gonna have to not play the audio because this is a licensed music, so obviously I can't play that for you. But I can. You can just watch the trailer, I guess. Okay, so we're Vice City. Of course, Gator has to get his groceries. Are they gators in Florida or crocodiles in Florida? Okay. Do you play as both characters, or do you only play as female character? I assume it's maybe you make a choice at the beginning, or you swap between them, or you just play as the female character, I guess. Yeah, I mean, obviously that looked very impressive because GTA, Rockstar, and think both. I assume it's you toggle between them in the same way you did GTA 5. That would make sense. Doesn't seem like there's a third character that you play as. A lot of things that were there from Vice City. I'm just gonna let that play again. Oh, wrong button. A lot of things there we saw from Vice City, and mute it as well so I can actually talk. Like the actually no, that was San Andreas. This is I was gonna say like the car competitions and the racing and stuff, but that was San Andreas. That wasn't Vice City. But like I'm recognizing, obviously I would recognize it because Vice City is just Miami, and they're effectively doing the same thing. So a lot of the buildings are very similar. A lot of the layout that we're seeing, like that shot just there, I certainly remember driving around it in Vice City. Just GTA 6 though, it's not GTA 6 Vice City. So you can still say Vice City and everyone will know what you're talking about. They won't be like, which game did you mean? This one? That one? The focus on social media stuff, CCTVs, we'll see how much of that actually makes its way into the game itself. Like, they're making a big deal of it in the trailer, so probably there'll be some element of it. I know though a lot of this trailer stuff is actually they're sort of just putting things that were on real social media from Florida, real like Florida man stuff, and they've kind of just put it into the trailer, like that guy with all the tattoos, the woman with the double hammers and stuff like that. Like there are actual clips of those actual real people. Um, but yeah, it's looking good. Was it 2025? Isn't it a million years away? There wasn't even a release date. Yeah, 2025. So we're still a billion years away from that. and not PC, as I believe as well. Anyway, it's very impressive. Okay, Day of the Devs, we got another showcase thing. So Day of the Devs is a more indie focused thing than the Game Awards. Day of the Devs is something that is run by Double Fine, Tim Schafer, and they've been running it for a good few years, but they only went into a sort of showcasey type thing in the last 3 or so years. The first game we're going to take a look at is called Militionnaire. You may have seen this on Twitter, TikTok, a bunch of other things. This is a game that is set in I think it's an Italian town. Militionnaire, maybe it's French. Don't know what that language is. YouTube is continuing to be weird. There's a giant policeman keeping an eye on you. He doesn't trust you. And you are trying to escape from this town. And while doing so, you are trying to not anger the giant policeman, because if you anger him, he will grab you and pick you up and try to kill you. I think I've gone to a weird trailer now. Anyway, you have like a time limit to get out. It's a sort of escape room kind of thing. Certain areas you go into, you're not allowed to go in. And if you do, you'll anger the giant policeman, but you can still placate him because he's apparently just looking for a friend. So if you're just nice to him, he might let you go in those areas and what have you. On the other hand, if you steal something, he'll come after you and pick you up, and that's the end of the game. But you can't talk to him. It's not just him. There are other people in the town as well that can help you or not help you, as the case may be. There was something shown off at the Game Awards where they were trying to escape into the sewers, and there was somebody else already in the sewers, and they wouldn't open the manhole for you because you weren't nice to them, and you got caught. So there's some weird stuff going on there. If you want to earn my favors, you do something to be nice to them. Tell them they're nice or something like that. Anyway, that's Militionnaire. I don't think it has a release date or anything like that. It's still quite a while off. Loose Leaf, a tea witch simulator, is a tea house / tarot card reading simulator thing. So, if you ever wanted to do either of those things, there's your shot. I'm gonna skip past it. Thank Goodness You're Here is something that was shown off, I think, at Summer Games Fest, and it's gotten a bit more of a trailer now. It is very British. Very, very British. You play... forget his name now, but you're like a traveling salesman. You've come into town, and there's a while before you're getting to meet the mayor. So you have some time to sort of mess about. And while you're messing about, you'll come across people who will just shout, "Thank goodness you're here," and give you random mini games to do that are all just nonsense. But it's very comedic, and if you find just the random regional British accents funny, then you'll probably enjoy a lot of what's going on here. I thought it was very funny, at least from the trailer. How much of that plays, or how much of that still works while you're playing the game, well, I guess we'll find out. Again, I don't think it has a release date yet, but I think it's next year at some point. Kind Words 2, Lo-Fi City Pop. You may remember Kind Words. The original Kind Words was a game, came out roughly around, let's say roughly around the time of the pandemic, but I think it was earlier than that. And the general gist of the game was that you wrote nice things to people. So you kind words, if you like. So you would, write down things you're worried about or things you have anxiety about or stuff like that, and send it off into the game world. And in return, you would receive similar things from other people. And the idea was that you would reply to them and be nice and kind of help them out and that kind of thing. Like it was very much a sort of not really a video game. It was sort of like a game wrapping around just pen pals sort of thing. And that kind of blew up, and a lot of people used it for a lot of different things instead of just the kind of original intent. And the sequel is sort of wrapping these kind of meta things that came out of the game into their own stuff. You have people who would write poetry in the original kind words, and instead now they have like a cafe you can go to and you write poetry there instead. I guess it's more to sort of split it up so that people who want poetry can get it and people who don't want poetry don't get it, or something. I don't know. I don't know how the fracturing will play out well for it, but the original game, at least, people seem to take to it really well. Block shown off again. I think Summer Game Fest. It might have been one of the Switch Directs instead, or Nintendo Directs instead. But there is a demo available for it now. Flock, as you can see just from the thumbnail, you are on a giant bird. You have a flock of things following you around. It's got a bit of Pokemon to it as you're trying to collect as many of these weird things as you can find. And they all have different ways of being collected. It's very much a kind of chill, just catch 'em all kind of thing. Hermit and the Pig. So Hermit and the Pig is it's kind of a turn-based combat sort of thing, but not. So you are a hermit, and you are accompanied by the pig. The pig is a truffle pig, so they go out to find truffles, and you sell the truffles, presumably. But you're also a hermit, so you don't really like people. So anytime you encounter an actual person, you have to do like a social battle to not embarrass yourself and stuff like that. But at the same time, you also have to like truffle and gather resources and things like that as well. So you have like trying to deal with various elements of nature attacking you constantly. A bear has attacked, and so on. And kind of interestingly, you don't just have a random sort of attack thing. You have to like choose what you would do against various creatures. So if you encounter like a bug or something, slapping a bug is probably not really going to work all that well, but you could stomp on a bug pretty well. So that's probably a good thing to do, and so on like that. The skunk agreed to disagree. It's got a lot of really weird quirks to it, and I'm really here for it. And I really like the way Hermit and the Pig kind of look like each other. I think that's fun. Anyway, I don't think this has a release. I think it's just next year. There's no release date for Hermit and the Pig, but you can't wishlist it. Okay. Dome King Cabbage. So if you thought Pony Island was weird, you ain't seen nothing yet. I don't even know what Dome King Cabbage is. So more stop motion stuff, more sort of Katamari Damacy craziness, but it also has, at least it was shown off in the Day of the Devs thing, that it does also have a pixel art, like old school Zelda top-down action adventure kind of thing. I have no idea what this game is, but I very much want to know, so I will be playing it. I'm making this visual novel by myself. It will take a while, but I hope you play it one day. Okay. No release date, but it looks very strange, and I need to know more. Ultros is a gross Metroidvania. It's like psychedelic colors, psychedelic art direction. Lots of very bright pinks and greens and yellows, but it's also meant to be like radioactive, toxic sludge kind of thing. But it is a Metroidvania, more of a melee-based one. So you will be going to like different locations, defeating enemies, gaining their abilities that lets you access new locations, and so on and so forth. Even this shot here is a Metroid. Like, I can't think that they don't know what they're doing there. So side-scrolly nonsense. To be honest, even though I'm very much into side-scrolly nonsense, there's something about this that I just don't like. I think it's just that it's gross. Kinda. I'm just getting the vibe of from it, so I don't know if I'd be able to actually stick through a whole game like having that feeling all the time. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Ultros is out in February though of next year. Holston we've seen a little bit of before. It is it's kind of a top-down Resident Evil until you get into combat, and then it becomes a first-person Resident, or sorry, an over-the-shoulder Resident Evil. So like Resi 4, like that. Um, so it's got like their whole thing is that like switching perspectives is their whole deal. So when you're not in combat, you have a full um, eight angle isometric kind of thing. So you can rotate around to find different items or different interactables and stuff like that. When you are actually in combat, though, like you can see there, it's full of rotation. When you're in combat, it changes to an over-the-shoulder kind of perspective. It's an interesting approach. It is I would kind of liken it to something. It's not going to be the same kind of game, but Deus Ex has something similar in that the newer Deus Ex games, in that you play first person for the vast majority of the game. But once you go into stealth activities, it goes third person. So you have a better idea of how your stealth is working. I think Thief did something similar. That's the same developer, so that makes sense. Yeah, this will be kind of interesting to see how it plays out. I do notice that when you swap to different perspectives, you're actually a little further away from the enemy than you think. So, I don't know. Maybe you can get closer to them before you change into over the shoulder. Anyway, there's a demo available for this as well. And I needed to remind myself of that because I've been meaning to play it. So we have to do that too. Odada is a sort of a toy game. So it's a lot of different sound effects, a lot of different items that make different sounds or have different timing to them, and you sort of cobble them all together to make music. It's a toy kind of thing. It looks interesting, but I have no sense of rhythm or anything like that, so it is definitely not for me. Cryptmaster is an interesting one. Cryptmaster is a sort of, it's kind of turn-based RPG, but also a typing game. So you type out things to sort of help this Cryptmaster go about their business. But you also use it to like fight in combat as well, and whatever you type out, allegedly whatever you type out, there'll be an action for it in the game. I kind of doubt that because there's a lot of words. It seems like they're not going to have animations for absolutely everything. There's also mention that the Crypt Master themselves will be ensuring that things remain family friendly. So you won't be able to say, fucking shit and what have you, which is a bit stupid, in my opinion. If people want to say the words, just let them do it. Just have a thing to say, I don't know what that is, or no, I'm not doing that, or something like that. But at least let them type it out. Anyway, you can just do a mod to fix it anyway. Wishlist now, which means there's no release date. Lamasoft, the Jeff Minter story, is another kind of Karateka type thing. So recently this year, Karateka got another installment. Karateka is a very, very old karate game. And it was mostly billed as a documentary type thing. It was kind of taking you through its development process and introducing you to the people who developed it and giving a kind of better insight into game development and a lot of game developers you probably haven't heard of, and the Jeff Minter story, Lamasoft, is the same thing. Lamasoft, he made a lot of really quirky platforming type games, and still is. He's still making it under the Lamasoft thing, and you could always tell it was a Jeff Minter game if a random alpaca or a camel or a llama ended up in the game. Just like, oh, okay, why is this here for no reason? It's because he likes doing that. Drag Her is a fighting game based around drag. It doesn't look. I'm gonna skip it. Braid Anniversary Edition. So it's been a while. Right, it's been a while. 2008 was the original Braid. The Anniversary Edition is coming out next year. It's just since a lot of the game was sort of hand drawn and pixel art, this new one is they've just upped the number of pixels you can still call it pixel art. It's kind of debatable. There's so many now, but I mean, technically it is because it's 2D. Lavish 15th birthday reworking. Basically, it's a chance for people to play the game again because playing the original game now, it might be difficult to actually access. And I believe it's going to be available through Netflix as well. If you're not familiar with Braid, just think Mario, but then think time travel as well. So you're essentially playing the game backwards. All the platforming is backwards. Enemies move in different time slices and time zones. And it's kind of more of a puzzle than a platforming game. It's interesting. Open Roads. Open Roads feels like it's an Annapurna game, but I actually don't think it is an Annapurna game. It's from the developers from Gone Home and Tacoma. It's Fulbright. It's essentially a mother-daughter road trip where they have gotten some news about their family, and they're sort of on a road trip to just solve this mystery, but it's also a kind of mother-daughter bonding situation. It's out 22nd February. I may or may not play it. I did like Gone Home and Tacoma, so I probably will. But I'm thinking about it. Janet de Mornay is a slumlord and a witch. This was shown off at... Was it another day at the devs in the summer? I think might have been. And it's just back here again. So Janet de Mornay is a slumlord and a witch is an escape room thing that is also kind of a bit slapstick as well. You're essentially trying to avoid your landlady, as you usually do. But also, she's very insistent on doing maintenance and stuff herself, so she wants to come in. And the escape room is kind of both trying to avoid letting her in and also trying to get out of the house. So there's a bit of Resident Evil to it, but you also have different roommates who are also around, but I don't think you ever see them. You just sort of see their mess that they leave. I'm not sure exactly how the game will work. Are you ever trying to hide from people? What happens when she does get in? I think it's just game over if she gets in. How long you're able to keep her away is not clear. Like this, I think this is her getting in effectively. Okay. Anyway, coming to Steam in 2024. Home Safety Hotline. If you've played Melwin, you might actually like this kind of thing. If you've played 999 or 112 Operator, or if you played something like Killer Frequency, this is a kind of similar idea. So you are on the night shift hotline, and people are calling in talking about like folk horror tales and like there's something in the house with me, or something is, whatever, what do I have to do? And you need to sort of look up your encyclopedia of horrible creatures or ghosts and things like that, and try to tell them, okay, so this is what you have to do, always keep looking at them, or don't turn your back on them, or just get some garlic or something like that, that kind of thing, and try to help people out. So it's an interesting concept, and it seems like their art design, art direction, they're going for like a early 90s PC feel to it. Out already, apparently. Why are we getting a trailer for it if it's already out? That's it this year, right? November 6th. Yeah, it's already out. Coming to Steam and itch November 2023. Okay, apparently it's already out, so go check it. I thought this was coming soon. Looks like an interesting concept, though. Check it out myself. Resistor is a car PG, as they've been calling it. Yeah, it's a racing game. I'm going to move on. The Mermaid's Tongue is the next thing from the Detective Grimoire series. I believe it's an Obra Dinn type game. As in, like, it's more of a deduction kind of thing rather than like a mystery solving type deal. The Detective Grimoire game, the original one at least, was good for its characterization, its writing, its comedy. that kind of thing. But the puzzles were also really interesting. So it's a kind of fill in the blanks thing in the same way Obra Dinn is, in the same way Curse of the Golden Idol is. Coming 2024. If you haven't played the original, I would give it a shot. And then Nirvana Noir was the finish. Was the thing to finish off the game. It's a sequel to Genesis Noir. I have not heard of either of these games, and to be honest, I wasn't all that interested in it either. So I'm just gonna ignore it. Anyway, that was Day of the Devs. There was also the Wholesome Snack Showcase, but I can't find, or at least within time for today's stream, I couldn't find a link that just had all of the games, so I have to skip it. Anyway, you can go check it out. Outcast: A New Beginning releases in March 2024, so this has a release window at least. So Outcast, this is technically Outcast 2, but it's sort of a reboot. It's a sequel and a reboot kind of thing. Outcast is a pretty bare bones sort of shooter platform thing with a jetpack. And Outcast 2 is a much bigger type of game. It's like a full world. You have full control of flight on it. I'm just gonna play the trailer. But it's still a running shootery type thing. So gameplay might feel a bit basic now. Not sure. I think this is more of a story trailer type thing. What I'm really interested here is the flight. I just want to know how that plays, because we've been burned before with jetpack games. Dark Void looked like it was going to be really good, and then it played like shit. So I'm kind of hoping that at least the flying and shooting mechanics work well enough here. They did not work well in Dark Void. Yeah, we're only really seeing the hovering stuff here. We're not seeing like the full-on flight that you see in Anthem. Well, no, we didn't really get a good shot of it. The other trailer showed it off a lot better. Anyway, that will be March at some point. Hopefully not the 22nd of March, because there's too much coming out that day. Dragon Age Dreadwolf got a ridiculous teaser thing that really showed off nothing. And it was, again, it's a teaser for a trailer. They're doing Rockstar again. This was announced 2018 Game Awards, and we've heard basically nothing since. This is ostensibly Dragon Age 4. Dragon Age Inquisition was a PS3, PS4 crossover game. That's how long it's been. Yeah, next summer we'll hear more about it, but even then, hearing more about it means the game is still ages away. Another delay for Alone in the Dark. So it was already delayed out of this year into January, and has now been further delayed into March 20th. So it's not March 22nd, but it's pretty close. Fuck. It's a busy week. Anyway, another delay. That's not great. That doesn't sound good. And that the delays are all kind of small as well makes it sound like there's like one really annoying thing they're trying to work on and they haven't figured it out. Or there's some weird publishing deal going on. I suppose that could be it as well. Free Epic Games this week. Number one is Gigabash. Gigabash is a kaiju brawler thing. Claim your place as king among the titans. Gigabash is a multiplayer arena brawler with gigantic film-inspired kaiju, larger-than-life heroes, earth-shattering special attacks, and fully destructible environments. So if you ever wanted to be Godzilla, walking around just destroying shit, that's kind of what they're going for here. And they've recently added a bunch of things like, I think Voltron was added into it, Ultraman was the last thing that was added into it as well. So, there's a little bit of fun stuff there. Plus it's free. And then also there's Predecessor. Let me in? No? Just auto let me in to Gigabash, but you don't want to let me into this. Man. Not even that good a game. Fuck it, it's Predecessor. I'm moving on. New releases this week. No actual main game new releases this week. But a lot of DLC and ports and stuff like that. So the main one I'm going to look at here is Resi 4 VR, because we are playing through the Resident Evil franchise, and we have looked at the Resident Evil 4 remake already as part of that, but the Resident Evil games have a lot of additional modes, and secondary and third playthroughs are also very interesting. So we will be revisiting all of them again. And when we get to that, we'll have Resi 4 VR to do. I may move that up the list because I actually really want to play this, and I want an excuse to play to play it. So I have my excuse. I'm just gonna play this one instead. By all accounts, it looks like it's gonna be really good. I have seen a couple of people who are like big VR heads play it, and they seem very impressed by it. So we're looking for good things here. Hopefully, it'll turn out well. Moving on, there was also, as we saw at the Game Awards, Final Fantasy 16 got some DLC, Echoes of the Fallen, and then the Rising Tide will be out next year at some point. And then Have a Nice Death, which is a roguelike game where you play the Grim Reaper, trying to set Grim Inc., Grim Incorporated back working properly. It's a very like kind of fun, cartoonish type game. But Have a Nice Death has been ported to PlayStation and Xbox. Anyway, that's all the fun stuff. It's now time to talk about the worst parts of the video game industry. So, first up, we have basically, it's more or less the common refrain after the Game Awards, which is they basically pay lip service to the actual awards, and it's mostly just the Jeff advertisements, mostly. So this, I'm basically just leaving this as a catch-all for all of the issues that people brought up about it. But we have things like award speeches were unceremoniously interrupted by a glaring auto cue reading, "Please wrap it up." They had effectively 30 seconds for their award acceptance speech, and it seemed like the 30 seconds started as soon as it was announced. So them walking up to the stage and waiting for the applause to calm down or whatever was also included in 30 seconds. You also had, developers who don't speak English and needed translators, and that was still 30 seconds. They effectively had a 15-second speech because it had to be translated. Assuming the translation takes as long as it takes to actually say the thing. Either way, bad. But the other indictment on it was that people who weren't accepting awards, people who were there just to present stuff, didn't seem to have a time limit. You had Hideo Kojima and Jordan Peele come out. It was like 10 minutes of the two of them just talking. You had Matthew McConaughey come out to present a game where he didn't even feature in the trailer. That seemed to have no time limit. Anthony Mackie came out to talk about Twisted Metal, and yeah, like it was fun. He was having fun or whatever, but still didn't seem to have a time limit on it. So it's just like double standards. It's like we're meant to be here celebrating the developers themselves, and we seem to just be not doing that, and we're more again trying to suck up to Hollywood, which is not new. This is how Jeff Keighley does things. He is embarrassed about video games. That's his thing. It would be good if people started realizing that he's embarrassed to be associated with video games, and he would rather be associated with Hollywood. Anyway, further into the article, Josh Sawyer, director of the brilliant narrative mystery Pentiment, had to say on Twitter, "This year's The Game Awards is an embarrassing indictment of a segment of the industry desperate for validation via star power with little respect for the devs it's supposedly honoring." Frontier senior tech writer Mags Donaldson, Neil Newborn, that's the guy who plays Astarion in Baldur's Gate, being told to wrap it up while talking about how his role has helped sexual assault survivors feel seen is something. Rami Ismail is a video game developer advocate. Hard time reconciling playing Sam Lake off the stage after 30 seconds. Sam Lake is the writer-director for Alan Wake 2. With having a many minutes long Kojima bit that has literally nothing to show. Yeah, that wasn't great. It was also pointed out for people who did crunch the numbers that less than 8% of the actual total running time was dedicated to the Game Awards, which is what it's actually called, and the rest of it was ads. So calling it the game ads isn't wrong. It's not wrong. And then this final piece, it's just more of an editorial from Rick Lane, saying, "There should be space to stop and recognize the work of the individuals who make games, not just possible, but brilliant, and the dismissive attitude of this year's show is a rather stark demonstration of how disposable developers are seen. to be in the money-making maw of the games industry. Yes, I agree. So the issue here is Jeff. Jeff is the problem. He wants a big show, and he wants to also be seen to be a friend of developers because that gets people into the show. And he has been on record before to say that if they didn't have all of the game trailers and what have you, people wouldn't tune in. And to what I would say to that is okay. That's not what you're here for. You're here for the Game Awards. Now, obviously, that's a problem if they're trying to make money. And the games industry itself is very much a forward, future-focused kind of thing. They don't really go back and look at things and, retrospectively talk about what things went wrong or anything like that. They're always just pushing ahead and crunching and what have you. So, waiting for that side of the industry to do something to celebrate developers or to even decry things in the industry. Like, there was no mention in the Game Awards about the ridiculous number of layoffs happening this year. There's more as well. Like, industry bullshit's not done yet. We got more layoffs to talk about. No mention of it. This is meant to be a show about the developers themselves, and there was no mention of it. The only real way to get around this is to leave Jeff to do his thing and to set up what film does, which has its own academy, and it has its own academy of directors, actors, and what have you. So now they have their own problems. The Oscars is always a bit myopic about things as well, but it is run by effectively actors and directors and what have you. It's not run by the studios. It's not run by Warner Brothers or Universal or Disney or whatever, So having that kind of committee that is not beholden to that kind of stuff is kind of the only way out of this. The problem with that, of course, is money. Putting a show on like that is obviously going to be difficult. So we are left in this position, but if all we're going to do is just complain about Jeff, nothing's going to happen. He's not going to change. He had plenty of notes from last year where there wasn't a single woman on stage. He didn't mention anything about the sexual harassment, sexual assault stuff going on at Activision, at Ubisoft. He barely paid lip service to it. Told about there being the ridiculous running time, the fact that he speed runs a lot of the Game Awards. He doesn't even let people come up to accept them. It's just, somebody won, whatever, next trailer. All of that stuff. He's been told it plenty of times. And he's come back to say, we'll do better next year, and it doesn't. Once again, there was not a single woman on stage. Presenting, at least. There were more trailers this year than there were last year. But the same running time, which means obviously the time for acceptance and awards was shrunk, less than 8% of the whole running time. All that stuff. He's not going to change. He's trying to court star power. That's his whole deal. He wants to be, when you say video games, you say Jeff Keighley. That's what he wants. And he gets it. He already has the Game Awards. Now he has Summer Games Fest during the middle of the year. I assume he's going to have something else in and around the September era as well to make up for it. But anyway, this is just a very common thing that happens after the Game Awards, which is this is an embarrassment, and it's always is. Anyway. Right, layoffs and shit. Okay, Tiny Build lowers revenue forecast, settles legal dispute with Versus Evil. So the original story is Tiny Build, the people behind probably the game them best for is Hello Neighbor, that series of games, have had to reduce their revenue forecasts, whatever that is. This is the money we assume we're going to make, I guess. It was going to be between the 40 and the 50 millions. It's now been reduced to somewhere between the 10 and 20 million. So that's considerable. That's a considerable somebody fucked up and is probably not going to lose their job about it. But you can guess who is going to lose their job about it anyway. Forecasts have also been impacted by Versus Evil, which is a different developer/publisher, delaying 3 out of 4 games that were originally planned for release in the second half of this year, including Drop Bear Bites Broken Roads. We're going to talk about that in a second, because that's a large reason why the revenue has had to be dropped. Upcoming launch of certain titles next year give reasons for optimism. I think there's a Hello Neighbor or something in development. Anyway, In his own comments, their CEO, the company could not overcome weak demand for video games and the sudden reversal of market dynamics. This was not sudden. We came out of the pandemic. This should have been expected. There was no sudden reversal here. The weak demand for video games is just nobody has any money. Again, you would know this if you talk to your employees. You're probably not playing them very well. TinyBuild also used this trading update to inform investors that it has settled a legal dispute between the company and Versus Evil, as well as its general manager Steve Escalante. We'll talk about again that in a second. Versus Evil and its QA studio, Red Cerberus, were acquired by TinyBuild in 2021. Escalante, Versus Evil's head of production, and so on and so forth, filed legal claim against TinyBuild saying that, hey, you didn't pay us after you bought the company. There was some stuff in the contract that said you were also supposed to pay us, and we didn't get the money. That was the lawsuit. That's now been settled. Also, they had suggested that TinyBuild had not released funds held back under the terms of the agreement, so that hampered their ability to deliver the games. Again, that was mentioned up here. The delay of 3 games, they attributed the delay to Versus Evil, whereas the delay was really that you just didn't give them the money to make the game. It was also alleging from Escalante that TinyBuild failed to pay him, promised 3 million in shares and options in a timely manner, as part of acquiring the company. TinyBuild has agreed to pay the claimants 3.5 million, in addition to legal costs and stuff like that. So that's obviously going to be part of their reduced revenue. But on top of that, now that they're having a reduced revenue, we're gonna have to start laying people off, you guys. So yeah, it's not gonna be anyone who made the decisions or chose to withhold funds from different companies and then got sued for it. No, it's not gonna be them. It's gonna be you, guy who does the pants on the Hello Neighbor guy or whatever. I don't know. Layoffs to publisher TinyBuild have been reported following lower than expected performance during the financial year so far. Oh yeah, I wonder why that was. Anyway. TinyBuild, the people behind Hello Neighbor, Potioncraft, Tinykin, kind of stuff. So this it has not yet actually been confirmed by TinyBuild. They have deliberately not returned comment to both Eurogamer and Games Industry Biz. So this was more surfaced in a Telegram channel called Game Dev We Deserve. They claimed that there had been layoffs at TinyBuild's 3 studios within Serbia. Number of employees affected is said to be between 10 and 30% of each studio, and in fact, one studio has been shuttered entirely. They've alleged that TinyBuild did not warn people in advance and instead just pulled them into one-to-one meetings and said you're fired. Like, wow, that is like textbook the wrong way to do it. TinyBuild is yet to confirm whether it has laid off any employees, and it's unclear exactly how many have been affected. Eurogamer has contacted them, but they have not yet come back to say anything about it. But then there was an update later on. Former employees of TinyBuild's internal developer, Hackjack Studios, say it has been entirely just shut down. Narrative director Colin McInerney confirmed the studio has been shut down by TinyBuild. They said that Hackjack was unceremoniously shuttered and all employees have lost their jobs. Effective immediately, right before Christmas. Very nice. Good shit. Good shit out of TinyBuild. But what was that whole thing about Versus Evil and Escalante thing? Well, Escalante got his payday, so he's out. Steve Escalante to exit from Versus Evil. The founder and general manager will also leave his post at outsourcing firm Red Cerberus. Again, Cerberus they were talking about QAs that they weren't paid, and so on. Now that he's been paid, he's like, well, I'm out. See ya. I'm out of here. Over the years, we have seen teams continue their creative journey. Some teams with us, others went their own way. Just being part of your game, your passion is a privilege. I look forward to seeing more from all of you. Yada, 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 whatever. I got mine. I'm out. Good luck to the rest of you getting laid off and fired and shit. I got 4 million for doing fucking nothing. But that's not it. We got more layoffs. We got still to come. Insurgent developer New World Interactive also affected by layoffs. Saber Interactive is working to fill existing roles. So Insurgency is a multiplayer military shooter, first-person military shooter type thing. This is another Embracer Group fuck-up. You might recall they were banking on the $2 billion deal with Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and something went wrong on that deal, and it seemed like they had already spent the $2 billion, or a sizable chunk of it, so now they are desperately just cutting costs here, everywhere. And obviously the person who spent all that money without confirming they had it, they kept their job. Anyway, We are working to fill existing open roles within Saber with individuals affected by these changes. This is from Saber Interactive themselves. Um, I don't see that happening because Embracer are still very much going on the layoff side of things. So I don't see them not wanting to pay them here, but wanting to pay them somewhere else. That doesn't make sense to me. It's unclear how many workers have been laid off at the studio, though a public post on LinkedIn shared by Second Wind's Nick Calandra suggested that most of the team on the council's project has been affected, so it's not affecting Insurgency itself, but whatever game they were working on next has been affected. This news comes after Embracer recently shut down the Timesplitters, a developer Free Radical Design that had only just been opened. Like they had just given them money to open their studio, and now they shut it down. And then also the Fish Labs downsizing. It's a developer from Course, which we talked about last week. But wait, there's more. EA confirms layoffs. Remember, none of this was mentioned at the Game Awards. Anyway, EA confirms layoffs at F1 developer Codemasters. Codemasters was acquired by EA like 2 years ago. Yeah, 2021. And is now being is getting the EA kiss of death. For new video game players, you may not know this, but EA has a history of acquiring and then killing developers. They're a bad parent. They're like a bad pet parent. You know, it's like the kid who buys a goldfish and then forgets about it. That's very much EA's operation. Codemasters is known for its racing games, particularly like rallies type stuff, so Dirt, Grid, Colin McRae's Rally, that kind of stuff. That was them. They were acquired by EA back in 2021, and they were brought in to help on Need for Speed. The latest Need for Speed Unbound, struggled to make any impact on its release year, which is a shame. That was like one of the better Need for Speeds. It's a shame that it didn't get very far. But anyway, the studio was acquired by EA in 2021 for $1 billion. Shortly after, the CEO and CFO fucked off. They got their money. They were out. I'm not hanging around to get the EA kiss of death. Following year, Codemasters was merged with Criterion to work on the Need for Speed series, because they're both racing game developers, and now it looks like Codemasters is on the way out. Good shit. Alright, I think that is actually it for layoffs, but there's layoffs maybe on the way, though. Report, Bungie will lose independence within Sony if Destiny 2 fails financial goals. So you may recall that Sony acquired Bungie for $3.5 billion last year. And the idea was that they would remain an independent subsidiary, but now it has been reported that if Bungie's Destiny fails certain revenue targets, Sony could dissolve the existing board and take full control of the studio. So the history of Bungie is kind of interesting. So they first off were making Halo. They were then acquired by Microsoft and then churned out a bunch of Halo stuff. They eventually went independent, making Destiny, and they partnered with Activision to do that. Activision enforced some pretty strenuous revenue and crunch requirements on them, so they bought themselves out of that to go independent again, and then Sony has acquired them, and now it seems like they're in literally the exact same position. It sounds like maybe there are people there who are making the same decisions all the time that gets them in this position. Maybe, I don't know. I was thinking out loud here. Anyway, Bloomberg reported that the studio had missed its 2023 forecast by 45%. Now, you could possibly suggest that their forecast was a bit optimistic if they're missing it by 45%. Missing it by that much suggests either somebody is not paying attention or somebody isn't doing their job properly. Like, that's too much. You can't be missing it by that much. You've missed something. You're not understanding something. IGN reports that Parsons CEO, I think. Yeah, the board of directors. Yeah, Bungie CEO Pete Parsons. So CEO, not Sony, is the person who made the decision to lay off a bunch of staff and institute other cost-cutting measures. This is what we heard about 2 weeks ago, and they were trying to recoup community goodwill and stuff like that, and it's not really working. Anyway, cost-cutting measures include a hiring freeze, a crackdown on annual cost of living adjustments to salaries, so they are effectively getting a pay cut, and no holiday bonuses, even further pay cuts. While the recent layoffs and cuts hurt the studio's DE&I initiatives, diversity, equality, and inclusion, I think is what that is. Initiatives and meeting groups, which are usually the first to see cuts, because, of course. Senior management has appeared to show a surprising amount of indifference or even outright flippancy or hostility about the situation because, of course, they're going to keep their job. It's the peons who are not going to keep anything. This is also coming into light in that the next Destiny expansion has been delayed. It was delayed out into June, it's supposed to be coming out in February. And Marathon, their next game, has been delayed all the way out into 2025. So things are not looking good for Bungie right now. And also to keep in mind, Sony acquired Bungie specifically for their live service game ability. And their game is tanking. And Sony have bet like 12 other games on Bungie's ability to sort of shepherd it. Yeah, anyway, let's move on. Starfield testers had to unionize to get a copy of the game. Okay, so this is news that Microsoft has agreed to recognize that 77 temporary game testers are actually part of the testing union that is currently playing at, what's currently working, at ZeniMax Studios. So as part of that, the workers all will get raises and free copies of Starfield. They helped painstakingly debug, but would otherwise not have received, because they were just contractors. Contractors don't get that kind of perk. The use of contractors is common in the video game industry. Yep, way too much. This is from the Communication Workers of America statement. And they often earn lower wages, fewer benefits, and face less job stability than the direct employees they work alongside. By recognizing the workers as members of the unions, ZeniMax and Microsoft management are setting a new standard for workers across the gaming industry. So this is good. This is good news, but also it does highlight just how poorly contracted and temporary workers are treated in the video game industry. Each worker will also get a free copy of Starfield, the major game release they had worked on. This had not previously been a practice for contractors, and it is generally not a practice in most video game studios. For contracted workers, temporary workers, seasonal workers, what have you, they don't get a copy of the game that they worked on. Whereas the employees do. Anyway, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora physical version still needs an online connection to install it. Owners of the disc version of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora will need to have an online connection to install the game. Players will need to install a day one patch, which is mandatory to start playing the game. Okay, what was the point of me buying the disc? You know, like the whole point of buying the disc is that if the servers ever go down or anything like that, or the digital store, it gets delisted, or the PlayStation disappears or whatever like that, you would still have the disc. You'd still be able to play the game. The fact that it requires a mandatory day one patch means this disc is useless. You are actually straight up just I mustn't have highlighted it. You are straight up just prevented from playing the game unless you have this patch. You get dumped to the title screen and you press whatever to start, and it goes, you need to install yada yada patch to play the game. What was the point of the disc? For game preservation reasons. Now, I don't particularly care about an Avatar game or whatever, but the general principle is that the disc should be at least playable. Yeah, fine, whatever. It's not going to get the updates and patches and what have you. That's a different thing about patch culture that's going around in the video game industry. But the fucking disc should at least play the game. And it doesn't. And that is ridiculous. It's not even clear how big the patch is. Hopefully this is not a trend. Also, in news that the thing you bought, you don't own it. Fuck you. PlayStation Store is removing 1,300 seasons of Discovery TV shows, even if users bought them. 1,300 seasons, not just videos, seasons, multiple videos. Anyway, players, I don't know why they're called players, viewers really, will soon no longer be able to watch any Discovery shows that they purchase. So you don't even get the delisting thing, right? Where, yeah, you can't buy them anymore, but if you bought them already, you can still access them? No, not even that. They're just gone completely. So this is stuff I don't know what Discovery shows are. Mythbusters. Or is it Mythbusters? Okay, it's here. Mythbusters, An Idiot Abroad, Cake Boss, Deadliest Catch, American Chopper, Shark Week. Stuff you put on when there's literally nothing else on TV. Well, except Mythbusters. I like Mythbusters. But other than that, stuff you put on when there's nothing else on TV. The point is, regardless of whatever you think the quality of those shows are, You bought it. You should still have access to it. But because of the way digital purchases work, you didn't actually buy it. You bought a license to it. The license has expired. Most of the time, when you buy a license to these kind of digital things, it's a in perpetuity license. Like there is no time limit on it. But apparently that's not true anymore. Apparently, if some idiot over at Warner Brothers, i.e., David Zaslav, who has been absolutely just destroying Warner Brothers at this point, good in some cases, but also it has fallout like this. They decide that they just don't want to re-up their license or whatever. They can just do that, and that thing you bought that you thought you owned, you don't own it anymore. You never owned it. In fact, you only ever owned a license to access it, or some bullshit like that. Buried deep in the end user license agreement, you'll probably discover it. Anyway, moving on. Right, so some stuff happening in the community. So a 25-year-old mod, or sorry, a mod for a 25-year-old game has been released. So a 25-year-old Thief the Dark Project gets a new leash of life with this stunning fan-made expansion. So this is the Black Parade, which is a mod / expansion to the original Thief game. You will still need to have the original game to play it, but it's a huge overhaul on game itself. Thief, if you're not familiar, it is 25 years old after all, is a first-person stealth game, not unlike Dishonored and Deus Ex and stuff like that. They would very much have pulled from Thief. The original Thief didn't, you might think this looks very primitive, and it does, but the original Thief didn't even look this good. This is a huge mod for the game. For a 25-year-old game, and they're still making stuff for it. That's dedication. That's passion for a series that even the developer has been paying lip service to up until this point. I believe it's available on Nexus Mods as well if you want to check it out yourselves. Fortnite players are bummed about Solid Snake's nerfed ass. So once again, Solid Snake's ass has been nerfed, going all the way from. Do they have the stupid picture where it has all of it? Yeah, well they don't have the third side by side with the Fortnite one, but yeah. So Metal Gear Solid 2, he had a very, very well detailed ass. You could even tell he was wearing underpants. Smash Brawl, they smoothed it out a little bit, and then Smash Ultimate, they just got rid of his ass entirely, and now it seems in Fortnite, he's got nothing, no ass whatsoever. Otacon, they took my ass, I can't shit. Yeah, well, I don't know why Snake's ass keeps getting nerfed. I don't understand it. What's the prudish nature of Fortnite developers and Smash? Smash at least makes kind of sense. I suppose Fortnite does for the same reason. It's somewhat family friendly. Still, it's a skin tight suit. He's gonna have an ass. Anyway, 15% of Baldur's Gate 3 playtime is spent in character creation. Yes, it is. I can absolutely believe that. Just sitting there for a solid hour, 2 hours, just going, about my character. Fuck's sake. It's pretty funny just to have those stats, though. Anyway, we'll leave Resi to play in the background. I think I already have this. Anyway, that was your news for the 4th of December to the 10th of December 2023. A lot of stuff coming out of the Game Awards. I'm not even going to try to recap it. A lot of interesting things, a lot of interesting games, and then a lot of the same kind of problems that the show has, in that it's, meant to be about awarding game developers, and they get less than 8% of its actual runtime is dedicated to awards. You've got them being ushered off stage while they're trying to dedicate games to deceased developers, people who worked on the game and didn't live to see the game come out, didn't live to see it get an award. You've got people like Eiji Aonuma, who was accepting an award for Tears of the Kingdom and doesn't have or isn't confident enough in his English, so he has a translator. He also didn't get to thank everybody who worked on the game and talk about the development process and stuff like that. They were like, nope, fuck off, get off the stage. We need to bring Matthew McConaughey on. it's the same thing you see at the Game Awards all the time, and every time it's depressing. Every time it's frustrating. But the only real way around it is to just take that kind of power away from Jeff Keighley and have their own setup. But they're not going to do it because it's cheaper to do it this way. It's cheaper to have everybody band together for one show than to have Sony do their own show or to have whatever. The real way to do it, though, is to have an independent body led by the developers themselves, like the Film Actors Guild or the Film Actors Guild, Screen Actors Guild. Film Actors Guild is from Team America. The Screen Actors Guild, or the Academy for the Oscars and stuff like that. But obviously that's money, and the Academy has been an established thing for a very long time, and it makes has its own problems and its own mistakes. But it's the only way to get away from this sort of requirement to have a lot of trailers and stuff to pay for the Game Awards. And it's like you're bringing in all these trailers, right? And they're meant to be ostensibly the publisher is paying for the Game Awards to go ahead, to put on the show, to rent out the theater and all that stuff. But there are so many trailers, and they're so beholden to these publishers and to the money that they don't have the time to have the actual awards, the whole thing that they're meant to be getting the money in to do in the first place. Like, what is the goal of the show? And I think a step back on that needs to be made. If Jeff really wants to be seen as advocating for game developers, I don't think. I think he wants to be seen to be doing it, but I don't think he actually wants to. Anyway, whatever. News other places. GTA 6 trailer is very impressive. It's a bit of a shame that it was leaked. But again, it's like 2025, long way off. There's a whole year between us, and as far as I'm aware, GTA 5 was delayed, and GTA 4. So don't necessarily expect it to be 2025 either. Day of the Devs is always an interesting showcase, and I think that actually does do a better job of showing off and showcasing actual developers. But I don't think many people watch it either for that reason. Anyway, new releases, no actual major game releases, just a lot of different modes and DLC and expansions and stuff. So Resident Evil 4's VR DLC, Final Fantasy 16 has some expansions. Have a Nice Death was ported across, and a bunch of other VR titles were also launched. Industry bullshit, layoffs continue. Layoffs continue until morale improves, I guess. Don't know how they're going to make that happen. Avatar requires a day one patch to even just play the game, which is like, what is the point of us having a disc? I don't know. Anyway, we're going to move on, and we'll have a look at what is happening on the channel this week. So, this is our roadmap for the end of the year, and this is probably how it's gonna finish up, to be honest, because we're gotten pretty close to the end now. So this week we finished Final Fantasy 2 as part of the Final Fantasy franchise playthrough. So Final Fantasy 3 will be starting soon this week. Myself and Melwyn also finished House of Ashes. I quite liked it. I think Melwyn liked it probably more than the other two. I'm not sure if you actually liked it in the first place. But the other two games obviously weren't very good, so there is that as well. Ongoing games, Resident Evil Code Veronica, we're still ongoing with that. We have now made it to the Antarctic, and I got stuck because I just didn't look at a particular side of the room. Master Detective Archives Rain Code we also started this week, and we'll be continuing into next week. And Monster Hunter World continues to be there, but I haven't put out a video for it in a good while. Before we get into what games we're going to be playing next week, we're just going to highlight some stuff that's coming up very soon. We're going to be doing our end of the year tier list for 2023. The one you're looking at here is 2022. So we went through all of the games that were featured on the channel and, just ranked them based mostly on my own feelings, to be honest. But, there was some input from the chat, and feel free to do so yourselves. I will make the tier template and share it on Discord, and if anyone wants to sort of put their own version of it together, feel free. But we'll be probably looking into that not next weekend, but probably the weekend after. And then after that, we have a look ahead to see what games are coming out next year that might be featuring on the channel. But before all of that, we will of course have some games to play next week. So, Final Fantasy 3. Moving on. So we've played Final Fantasy 1, played Final Fantasy 2. We're moving on to Final Fantasy 3. I mean, kind of makes sense. Continuing our franchise playthrough. I have not played this one, as the way I haven't played Final Fantasy 1 or Final Fantasy 2. I haven't played any of them all the way up to 6. So we're working our way through it, and eventually we'll hit the Final Fantasies that I know extremely well, versus the games that I know basically nothing about. Final Fantasy 3 was an interesting one. Final Fantasy 2 was very experimental, and I think what they discovered is a lot of their experiments were like, yeah, let's not do that again. That was bad. So Final Fantasy 3, they're more like, let's go back to basics. We're also going to introduce summons. So Final Fantasy 3 was the first time we saw summon abilities. So that'll be interesting. Master Detective Archives Raincode, as I talked about, this is part of my Foley Fables series. The Fables series is where we play games with a strong narrative focus. So this is a detective murder mystery type thing from the creators of the Danganronpa series. So it has a lot of Danganronpa in it. It's also got a fair bit of Ace Attorney as well. We play Yuma, who is, like all anime protagonists, has amnesia and doesn't remember what he's doing or why he's here or anything like that. Currently, we are still pretty early in the game. We have woken up on the train and all of our companions have been murdered. It also appears that we are the only person left alive on the train, so what's going on? Like, did the killer kill themselves as well? That's kind of weird. So yeah, we're gonna have to try to figure out what's going on there. That's where I left it. I left it on the let's figure out what's going on part. We'll be doing that on Wednesday. Thursday, continuing Resident Evil Code Veronica X. As I said, we're at the Antarctic base with Claire. So we have the Nosferatu fight coming up soon. And I did have to leave the stream. I was going to say I left the stream early, but it was pretty much exactly when I was planning to stop it anyway. But we were stuck a little bit at the end because I did not spot the button I needed to press. And I never spotted it because it was in a room with a bunch of dogs in it. And I just kept running away from the dogs and never went to the one spot in the room that I needed to go to. So we'll do that and then continue on from there. So some new games next week as well. So I'm going to be doing some more games in my Fully Plays Games a Bit series, which is where we play newly released games for a bit. So the first one we're going to be playing is called The Spirit and the Mouse. You play a mouse, and you encounter this electric spirit, and you are effectively trying to bring power back to this little village by being a mouse and doing mouse things. It's like a fun, like, physics puzzle type game. Hopefully. That's my hope anyway. I don't know too much else about the game. And then also, we're going to be taking a look at Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, also as part of Fully Plays Games a Bit. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is from Team Reptile, and it is essentially an homage to Jet Set Radio. This was obviously developed and brought out before Sega remembered that they made Jet Set Radio and decided to make their own version of it again. But yeah, we're going to be checking this out on Saturday. So that is the plan for next week. So Tuesday, Final Fantasy 3. Wednesday, Master Detective Archives Raincode. Thursday, Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Friday, The Spirit and the Mouse, a bit. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk on Saturday for a bit. And then we'll be right back around to the weekly news recap on Sunday. That's the show you're watching right now. Right, that is it from me. Thanks, Melway, for keeping me company, and anyone who's lurking in the chat as well. It's appreciated. If you want to check out any of those games I just mentioned, find them all over on the YouTube archive, youtube.com/doomtrade5. If you want to check out any of the articles and stuff that I've talked about, they'll all be in the paste bin under YouTube. Check that out there. If you're watching on Twitch, it's live. I can't do much about that right now. Just find the URL yourself. Otherwise, Melwin is playing Adios later today. We played it also on this channel as well. I really liked it. I thought it was a really good story and really well written, and I would encourage you to check that out. It's twitch.tv/Melwin26. Check that out there. Right. I'm gonna go. My voice is about to die anyway. Right. Bye bye.